Hey guys, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole, and we're breaking down each SEC football bowl game in 2021 from a betting perspective. And today we're talking about the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That features the South Carolina Gamecocks playing the North Carolina Tar Heels. This game's going to be played on Thursday, December 30th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time at the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. It'll be televised on ESPN. From a betting perspective, this game opened with North Carolina as a 5.5-point favorite. And as of recording this video, that line's moved up all the way to North Carolina -9. The over-under for this game opened at 58.5 and has held firm at 58.5 as we record this one. I'll bring in our betting analyst, Christopher Smith. Christopher, I think the most exciting part about the Duke's Mayo Bowl game is anticipating that Gatorade bucket full of mayo being dumped on a coach, right?
That's got to be it. And hey, Nick, hope you and your family had a great Christmas, as well as everybody out there listening to us. And, Nick, I think also you mentioned before we started recording here that South Carolina fans are super excited about getting Spencer Rattler, the 5-star quarterback. And you'll take us through the injuries, news, and notes here in just 1 second. But I think South Carolina fans will probably appreciate Spencer Rattler a little bit more after watching another version of this offense. But why don't you tell us about the weather and then tell us who's going to play in this game for both of these teams?
Yeah, sure. So we're a couple days out recording this one. So obviously the forecast could change. But as of right now, we've got a little bit of a situation to monitor. We're going to have temperatures in the low 70s in Charlotte, which should be fine. But we've got a 40% chance of thunderstorms and projected winds between 10 to 15 miles an hour. So check this one on game day to be sure. But those winds are kind of in that category of concern. Anything over 10 miles an hour has our antennas up for a potential issue, especially if you're looking at betting the total on a game. On the injury side of things, let's start with South Carolina. We've got a pretty lengthy list of players that are either out for injury, for transfer, for opting out because they're getting ready for the NFL draft. There are a host of reasons this bowl season that players have not been playing, or bowl games themselves have not been playing. Hello, COVID-19, right? But these are the guys to watch for on the Gamecocks. We've got running backs Zaquandre White and edge Kingsley Ngbare have both opted out of this game. Quarterback Jason Brown, who played a couple of key games there for the Gamecocks down the stretch, has transferred. And Zeb Nolan is going to get the start for South Carolina in this one. Running back Marshawn Lloyd was limited in practice on Monday, while edge Jordan Strachan did not participate at all. Injured offensive tackle Dylan Wanham won't return for the game. And the defensive backs and wide receivers coaches both were missing from practice as part of protocols there on December 27th. So again, we're recording a few days out. Hopefully everybody's safe and healthy and ready to participate in this one on Thursday. On the North Carolina side of things, we haven't seen any reports on major injuries for them. We do know that quarterback Sam Howell is expected to play in this one. He's a key piece to that Tar Heels offense. Real quick, Christopher, before I hand it over to you for the betting analysis, just give a little bit of background on where each of these teams are. Probably look at the records and see, hey, we've got a couple of 6-6 teams. I think we can sort of view them from a couple of different lenses. On the South Carolina side, I think they're pretty happy to be in a bowl game and to have 6 wins. Some people may be scratching their heads that have watched them and go, how did they get to 6 wins? But really the truth is when Shane Bieber took over this program, in January, the expectation was very low in year one. And to have them in a position where we're talking about them playing a rival school in a bowl game that matters is pretty, I would call that a success story. So the attitude around the program, I think, sort of reflects that. And while we've seen teams like Florida or LSU show up at 6-6 and not really do much in their bowl games for the SEC, I would expect to see a pretty motivated Gamecocks team coming in with their 6-6 record. It's all about expectations, right? These guys are happy to be there. On the North Carolina side, they're also 6-6, but I would put them more in the disappointed category when you're trying to figure out motivation for bowl games. Mac Brown has regained some of his college football street cred, I guess, from the days when he was at Texas and then he ran out of there. Now he comes to North Carolina and he's got this program back in perennial bowl status and actually usually a top 25 contender. But this season really hasn't gone to plan for the Tar Heels. And, you sort of look back over the postmortem of what happened to this team, and it simply, they couldn't win on the road. They were 0-5 in games on the road this season. They lost at Virginia Tech, at Georgia Tech, at Notre Dame, at Pitt, at NC State. Now, that's a pretty decent list of teams, particularly those last three. But the loss that sticks out to me is that Georgia Tech loss. It was a blowout loss to a really bad Yellow Jackets team. So it just shows you the range of outcomes you could see from this game or from this Tar Heels team. And then the last thing I point out to you, Christopher, is these guys are actually pretty familiar foes for a bowl game. This is the 48th time that North Carolina and South Carolina will have faced off. And in fact, they played in this stadium to open the 2019 season. North Carolina won that one 24-20. Obviously different head coach for South Carolina in this one and some different faces, but all-time series, North Carolina leads at 35-19 to 4 ties. When we're sitting down to bet this one, Christopher, this line has moved pretty significantly towards North Carolina being the favorite to win this. Can we make any money off of this change?
Yeah, so I think the fact that Sam Howell was playing in the game, I think maybe affected that move a little bit because, before the season, we were talking about Sam Howell as potentially a number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but, I think the fact that he is playing in sort of a mid-tier bowl game when a lot of these, top first-round type prospects maybe are not influence the line some, but a lot of it is also influenced by some of the personnel moves that you've already spoken about for who's going to be not available for South Carolina in this game. Looking at South Carolina's schedule, I mean, they really struggled against East Carolina, Troy, and Vanderbilt. I mean, the Troy game, at least at the end, they got a few non-offensive touchdowns, and they won by, I think, 9. And they also lost to Missouri. They did beat Florida and Auburn. Now, those Florida and Auburn teams also barely scraped into bowl eligibility, but those are quote-unquote good wins for South Carolina this season. And this is another 6-6 team that kind of had higher expectations than the way they finished, just like Florida and Auburn. South Carolina is missing their best pass rusher, at least their most productive. They're missing their top running back and the quarterback who started the last 4 games of the season. And then one of their other top running backs is limited in practice, as you mentioned. So if South Carolina can't score the ball, then the Gamecocks are sort of like the low end version of what we've seen from them this season. They need to be able to score to have any chance of competing even with a 6-6 type of team. Their offense is actually 122nd in EPA per snap and 124th in EPA per rush. So they really, really struggled to run the ball with any sort of consistency all season. And Nick, you talked about why North Carolina was disappointing this year. I think the main culprit, although there's more than one reason, is that North Carolina couldn't stop the run, and their run defense was just awful. So something's got to give in this game. North Carolina's defense was 97th in SP plus right now. My prediction, especially with all the injuries, is that South Carolina's offense will be a huge relief for North Carolina, and their defense won't be perfect in this game, I don't think, but this is a huge step down in competition from some of the top ACC teams that North Carolina has faced this season. Now, you also mentioned North Carolina's sort of overall season being a disappointment, not where they wanted to finish, but they did have a decent finish to the season. I mean, they beat a top 10 at the time team in Wake Forest. They beat a Miami team that was playing much better after making a quarterback change. And their season, even though it was disappointing, there was a chance to have it be a much better season, as they only lost by a single score at Pitt and at NC State late in the season. If those games had kind of gone the other direction, we're still looking at an 8-4 team with a chance to get to 9 wins in a bowl game there. So South Carolina, the thing they do the best is pass defense. They're 9th in EPA per snap, but also, like I mentioned, they're missing their top edge rusher, and they're also maybe missing another edge rusher there. And North Carolina is tied for 12th nationally in completions of 30-plus yards. If you watch SEC football, Phil Longo, who was at Ole Miss for a long time, loves dialing up those deep balls, and Sam Howell is not shy at all about throwing those either. So it's very important that South Carolina find another player to get some pressure on Howell and somehow develop a pass rush. Otherwise, North Carolina is going to have time to hit those deep balls downfield, and it's going to be very tough with South Carolina with the offense they have to keep pace in this game if that happens. So, Nick, why don't you give our viewers kind of a late Christmas present, and then also tell everybody what you're betting on for this game.
Yeah, sure, Christopher. So bowl season is in full swing, and Action 24/7 Sportsbook is celebrating with a special offer for its new customers. For a limited time only, you can get your deposit matched 100% up to $800. So sign up today and make your first deposit using code South14, that's South14, and Action will double your money up to $800. Download the app or visit action247.com to get things started. Action 24/7 is by Tennesseans for Tennesseans, and you've got action. Christopher, we talk about this on a lot of our videos through bowl season. There's 40 something on bowl games, and it's really probably not wise to bet on all of them. And so I'm taking this stance in this one that I'm going to stay away. I don't like either of these teams from a consistency standpoint from week to week over the course of the regular season. And when you get into the unpredictability of bowl season, it's especially hard to predict what we're going to see out of this one. I think if you made me make a pick, I would take the Gamecocks +9. I feel like they're happy to be here. I feel like 9 points is a reasonable amount of points to take in a bowl game. You see a lot of one possession games, it feels like, in these bowl games. So I'll take the team that's getting the 9. And if you're making me pick a side on this one for the total, I think I like the under 58.5 slightly. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to consider actually betting on the under in this game. It's not like a clear-cut slam dunk. I mean, no bet is, but in terms of the edge here, I do think that a lot of the betting market doesn't realize that South Carolina's pass defense has been statistically as pretty good defense nationally against the pass, which we know North Carolina, wants to do over and over again. And I also think that South Carolina's offense, even against North Carolina, is going to really struggle to do much of anything here. I mean, they don't have the offensive line. They don't have the running game. Zeb Noland wasn't even supposed to be a quarterback this year, and he's sort of a statue back there in the pocket. He's not exactly accurate either, which if you have a statue at quarterback, you hope he can at least complete the ball with accuracy. He doesn't really have any good SEC caliber weapons either. So I think North Carolina may have to score 42 to make sure this game goes over. And I'm just not so sure they'll be able to do that against South Carolina's defense. But I kind of went back and forth on the side. I don't like anything really there in terms of me making a real play, but I'll go with North Carolina -9 just because I can see a scenario where they do hit at least a couple of big plays. And I think it'll be very, very difficult for South Carolina to keep up with them. And I think North Carolina on the defensive side, when you have a Phil Longo offense, you thrive on getting a lead and then being very aggressive and trying to create negative plays. You may give up some, you're going to create some. And so I just think that the game script may, at the end, favor North Carolina kind of pulling away. But again, I much prefer the total on under 58.5. Nick, it sounds like you like South Carolina a little bit, and the under 58.5, maybe not enough to bet. But those are our picks for this game. For Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for the 14, and we'll talk to you for the other bowl games.